Okay, guys, I'm really starting to get worried about Quinn. The last I heard from him was when his Indiana Jones episode went live, and then he mentioned something about going to California for research. Hello?
Mark, it's Quinn. Hey, I'm sorry I haven't called, but I stumbled on something I shouldn't have. I'm going off the grid.
Okay, I'm gonna need a bit more than that.
Fine. I was in Anaheim doing some field research at Disneyland, right? And I'm pretty sure Disney has some sort of secret celebrity cult in New Orleans Square. I was just about to jump on Pirates before heading out, and I saw a pretty unsavory group being ushered behind a big blue door, all holding cards with the number 33 on them, which I'm fairly certain stand for the 33 Horses of the Apocalypse. Among the group were Tom Hanks, Keanu Reeves, Hugh Jackman, Henry Winkler, and Terry Crews. I'm pretty sure they saw me, so needless to say, I am in trouble, and I need to disappear, and fast.
Quinn, are you talking about Club 33? The private restaurant and lounge that's been in New Orleans Square since 1967? Also, aren't there only 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Are you serious?
Yeah, everyone knows about Club 33.
Oh, yeah, of course, I'm joking. I was just messing around with you. April Fools.
It's February.
No liquor, no beer, nothing. Because that brings in a rowdy element. That brings people to Disneyland that we don't want, and I feel they don't need it. From the very beginning, Walt Disney was careful to clearly and publicly outline his feelings on alcohol in Disneyland, and in doing so revealed why he felt the way he did about alcohol in his park. From Disneyland's very inception, Walt wanted his park to be something more, not just your everyday carnival where drinking in less than modest quantities was a given for some visitors. Walt felt that a dry park, at least as far as the general public was concerned, was essential to maintaining the standard and image he wanted to uphold. However, Walt himself was not someone opposed to social drinking and regularly enjoyed alcohol himself. In fact, rumor has it Walt always kept a bottle of scotch stored away in a private compartment on the Mark Twain steamboat, specifically for his own after-hour enjoyment. With that said, the businessman in Walt was well aware that alcohol was a prominent slice of American culture and wanted adults to at least have an option to purchase alcoholic drinks near the park, just not within Disneyland itself. Because of this, by Disneyland's 2-year anniversary in June of 1957, certain guests could enjoy alcohol just outside the park gates at the newly opened Holiday Land, an open picnic area that stood where New Orleans Square is today, and featured a baseball field, a playground, and a large tent repurposed from the failed Mickey Mouse Club Circus, where all-you-could-drink beer was readily available for purchase just a few steps removed from the park itself. The area was generally rented out by companies for picnics or by private groups for birthday parties and other celebrations, and the area even had a special entrance directly into the park. This special entrance was the cause of many problems within the park almost immediately, as groups who rented out Holiday Land usually were given an allotted time when their entire party would be allowed into Disneyland at once. This led to large and drunken groups, up to 7,000 at a time, entering the park together in one large mob, sometimes crippling the magical atmosphere Walt had worked so hard to craft. For better or for worse, Holiday Land was relatively short-lived and closed in 1961 for an apparent lack of Disney flavor, which may have been due, at least in part, to the adults who had one too many at the happiest place on Earth. The land was also wildly unpopular with children, who would often be taken to Holiday Land for their parents' company picnic, yet as previously mentioned, visitors renting out Holiday Land weren't let into the park until their scheduled time. Veteran Imagineer Tony Baxter had a hilarious take on the way children must have felt being so close to Disneyland itself, as their parents were knocking back cold ones at a company picnic.
Well, you're in here and you're waiting to go through those turnstiles. Just think you're hearing the Mark Twain and the Atopic, all of these things just beyond the berm, but you can't
traction
go
posters at the entrance?
Yeah, traction posters for the Grand Canyon and the Columbia, but you're not going to go on those because today you get to do sack racing. Yeah.
It's hard to imagine how long the hours must have felt as a kid heading to Disneyland, getting so close, and then having to wait just outside the park gates at a company picnic. Regardless, the failure of and problems caused by Holiday Land only served to solidify Walt's feelings on alcohol in his park. He was less concerned with responsible guests having a drink outside the park gates, and more interested in continuing to change the way amusement parks were viewed, starting with his own. As such, he didn't want drunk guests stumbling around with open containers, or droves of drunken visitors ruining the experience for others, and chose to limit any alcohol served within the park itself to after hours. Both the Golden Horseshoe and the Mark Twain Steamboat had bars that Walt kept stocked for his own private, invite-only events the general public couldn't access and knew nothing about. If any regular day guest wanted to drink on Disney property, they would need to step outside the park. To be fair, guests didn't have to travel far, as any visitor in need of a pick-me-up could jump on the Disneyland monorail and head to the aptly named Monorail Lounge, located right next to the Disneyland Hotel, which also had multiple bars located inside. It's worth mentioning that Walt himself didn't own the Disneyland Hotel and wasn't in control of the drinks served within. Inside the park though, Walt stuck to his policy for nearly a decade, serving alcohol privately, but not publicly. However, this all began to change in 1963, when Walt was approached to see if he'd be interested in working on a variety of corporate-sponsored attractions that would be featured in the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair. Because Walt and WED Enterprises were considered to be in a league of their own in the realm of advancements in theme park technology, nearly a dozen outside corporations were interested in working with Disney to showcase their products. Disney was more than up to the challenge and happily accepted the task, reaching an agreement to develop 4 standalone attractions for 4 various corporations. Walt saw this as the perfect opportunity to not only continue research and development of theme park tech without using his own money, but also planned to repurpose the physical exhibits into Disneyland once the World Fair was over. After previous World Fairs, the majority of exhibits were simply dismantled or scrapped, as most corporations didn't have their own theme parks, so there was no use for them. Disneyland, of course, provided the perfect home to give the exhibits a second and more permanent life. Disney and his Imagineering team were determined to build attractions that would not only impress those attending the World's Fair, but would also be worthy of bringing back to Disneyland when everything was said and done. However, while Disney's involvement in the World's Fair is undoubtedly an incredibly important piece in Disneyland history, most of that story has little to do with Club 33, but there is one crucial connection. You see, after the World's Fair had come and gone, Walt ran into a little trouble with General Electric, the company who had sponsored Disney's most popular World's Fair attraction, the Carousel of Progress. While GE was open to the idea of extending their sponsorship, as part of the proposed agreement, the company's top executives wanted Walt to build an exclusive VIP lounge within the Carousel of Progress itself, all for them to enjoy when visiting the park. Additionally, they wanted the lounge stocked with alcohol at all times, something Walt really wasn't on board with. He explained, in what I imagine were less abrasive words than I'm currently using, that drunk executives inside an attraction show building wasn't exactly something he was willing to sign off on. The company pushed back, and Walt, concerned he would lose the most popular of his 4 World's Fair attractions, offered a compromise. Disneyland had just begun development of a brand new land, New Orleans Square, and Walt was already planning on building a corporate lounge within the new expansion, one he offered to General Electric for use on their visits. However, Walt stood firm on his no alcohol policy during park hours. Again, GE pushed back, and knowing the popularity and value of the Carousel of Progress, Walt ultimately and begrudgingly gave in, marking the first and only instance where Walt would approve an establishment to regularly serve alcohol in the park during park hours.
I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Walt intended for the soon-to-be-constructed club to only be accessible to corporate sponsors and industry VIPs in an attempt to keep Disneyland as dry as possible during park operation. It was to be the single location where alcohol would be served in Disneyland during the day and only alongside meals, no separate drinks. There was a silver lining to the entire situation, as while Walt wasn't thrilled with the compromise, he and his wife had become increasingly unhappy with the spatial constraints of their private apartment above the Disneyland firehouse, and were planning to build a second and much larger suite in New Orleans Square that would allow them to entertain guests after hours. Walt was excited to build his new apartment and VIP lounge side by side, complete with a shared kitchen. He loved the idea of a private lounge where he could entertain guests and friends right in Disneyland, with a private suite and kitchen for he and his wife to enjoy. Both Walt and his wife even flew down to New Orleans themselves to handpick many of the items to be put on display within the club. Club 33, as it was ultimately named, opened in May of 1967. Unfortunately, Walt never did get to see the lounge he was so excited for himself, as he sadly passed away just 5 months before Club 33's opening day. Despite never seeing the finished product for himself, Walt's influence was and is all over the club. On opening day, the entrance featured a French lift, which Walt had his Imagineers handcraft after seeing one just like it in a hotel while hunting for club decorations in New Orleans. Upon opening, the walls of the trophy room were lined with various rare mounts, which were gifted to Walt from friends over the years, and the room was also the home of an animatronic vulture. The vulture, along with the microphones hidden in the chandelier, were the sole remains of Walt's plan to have talking animatronic birds hidden around the club. The idea was to have microphones hidden all around the lounge to hear conversation, and have hidden cast members use speakers in the animatronic birds to jump into random guest conversations. Before opening, it was realized that eavesdropping on guest conversations wasn't exactly the best idea, and the plan was ultimately, and thankfully, scrapped. The origin of the Club 33 name is a topic that has been up for debate from day one. If you were to ask a cast member, they would tell you the name comes from the club's physical address, 33 Royal Street. Because the club serves alcohol inside, it is required by California law to have its own physical address separate from the parks. This is the official explanation from Disney, however there are countless other explanations out there. Roger Craig, one of Club 33's original Day One employees, who was even featured in the lounge's first official brochure, says the club was named after the park's 33 major corporate sponsors in 1967, which is as good of an explanation as any. Jack Lindquist, Disneyland's director of marketing at the time of Club 33's opening, and who would ultimately go on to serve as Disneyland's first president for a brief stint in the 1990s, has said in the past the name originated from Disneyland's physical address, 1313 Harbor Boulevard, as well as Walt just simply liking the number 3. Fans have even theorized the name is tied to the Prohibition era, which ended in 1933 after the 18th Amendment was repealed, and as Club 33 was the first in-park location to serve alcohol during regular operating hours, this is a theory that certainly has merit. The mystery behind the name has been in place for over half a century, and to be honest, most Disney fans wouldn't have it any other way. Membership to the club only remained exclusive to corporate sponsors for less than a year after opening, as soon after public memberships became available to the very wealthy, who could simply purchase a membership for the right price. This quickly turned Club 33 into a very popular spot for visiting celebrities just to escape the regular day crowds. Despite the high entrance fee and the certain level of mystique and intrigue the club held and still holds to this day, Club 33's service has always been about what you'd expect from a high-priced VIP lounge: expensive food, first-class cast members, and a relaxed atmosphere you're unlikely to find anywhere else in Disneyland. In the half-century since opening, Club 33 has remained a part of Disney many wish they could one day experience, but in all likelihood, most of us will never get the chance. In 2014, Disney remodeled the club entirely and opened the waiting list to new applications for the first time in decades. With that said, anyone who chooses to send in an application today can expect to wait around 15 years before hearing back, that is, without the right connections. Those who are invited to become a member can expect an initiation fee in the ballpark of $25,000, with annual fees that are currently set at $15,000 a year, and that's for the lower tier membership. The highest tier has an initiation fee of $40,000 a year, and while I couldn't find the exact figure on the annual fees, it likely scales in a similar fashion to initiation, so somewhere around $20,000 to $25,000 a year. However, the membership comes with more than just access to the club. Club benefits have changed wildly over the years, but as of the most recent sources, the Platinum membership, aka the cheap one, big air quotes there, comes with 4 premier annual passes, which offer year-round access to any Disney park in the United States, 50 park hopper tickets per year which can be given out to friends and family, 5 annual VIP tours of any Disney park in the US, access to both Club 33 and Club 1901, which is California Adventure's private lounge, 6 instantly redeemable fast passes per guest per day, and access to Club 33 member services, who take care of all VIP arrangements to make for a perfect day at Disneyland, all for the low price of $25,000, plus annual fees, of course. Can't forget those. Fortunately for the everyman, if you're just looking to have an alcoholic beverage in Disneyland these days, times have changed and there are much cheaper options that anyone can access. Just step into Galaxy's Edge and grab a drink any time of the day, and there's no $25,000 initiation fee to worry about. The Club 33 brand has also expanded to the other parks in recent years, as Tokyo Disneyland, Shanghai Disney, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios have all received their own versions of the club, with the newest just having opened in the Animal Kingdom in December of 2019, although members of Club 33 in one resort are not given access to the other club locations around the world. The expansion of the Club 33 name has done little to diminish the mystique around the original, due in part to the high level of secrecy surrounding the new Club 33 locations. Photography is not allowed within, and even over a year after some have opened, very few interior photographs have surfaced online, and most day-to-day guests have no idea more than one Club 33 even exists. Still, the personal connection to Walt and storied history ensures that the original Club 33 will always be a topic of interest for Disney enthusiasts, and while most of us will never experience the club ourselves, we can always hope for a miracle, or for someone to drop their Club 33 membership card. Either one is fine by me. Thank you so much for watching Yesterworld. If you want, follow myself and Mark over on Twitter, and if you like what you just watched, check out the Yesterworld podcast, which you can find linked down below in the description.